Let us now share in hearing the gospel reading from the Gospel according to John, these verses from the 13th chapter, in which Jesus washes the disciples' feet. Now before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world to go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. After he had washed their feet, he put on his robe and had returned to the table and said to them, "Do you know what I have done for you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you." Last Saturday, I was reading the paper when I came across a really good story. I wanted to share it with you today. It has to do with cookies. You know, those little delicious bits of numminess. I'm indebted to Pastor Galen Penner from the Mennonite Church for this story. It appears in his pastor's column. And the column was entitled "Generosity as an Act of Kindness." While waiting at the airport for her plane to board, a woman purchased a package of cookies and sat down and waited. A gentleman came over and sat down by her. And as she glanced over out of the corner of her eye, she noticed that he was eating a cookie. She glanced down at her purse and saw what she thought was her package that was opened. She couldn't believe the gall. So, incensed, she reached over and grabbed a couple of cookies, and then she saw him eat another. Well, she grabbed all the cookies except for one, and he reached in to the bag of cookies and broke it in half and ate the other half. Well, she took the bag with the half a cookie to stuff it back into her purse, and she looked down in horror to see that her whole bag of cookies was there, intact. He was the one who was being generous with her. Generosity is an act of kindness, is it not? It reminds me of the prophet Micah's verse, chapter 6, verse 8. "O mortal, what does God require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God?" Kindness is such an important virtue. This fall, we have been reading a book entitled "Another Way, Living and Leading Change on Purpose" by Lewis, Williams, and Baker. We've been looking at this book in this time of seismic change to help us reflect upon our journey together as a community of faith. It helps us recognize and name the changes that are going on and how to lead our church in a faithful way during this time of so many upheavals. We know that the Christ Church of 35 years ago doesn't exist anymore, not even 10 or 5 years ago. And certainly in this day, it is even different from the way it was a year ago now. This week's chapter is about leadership. What do the authors have to say to us about leadership in the church in this new day? They actually bring us back to an old vision for leadership that is based on Jesus in the scriptures. They talk to us about the importance of letting go of the image for leadership as a hero warrior and instead looking at the leader as a healing hero. The chapter that we're reading on liberating leadership begins with this quotation. There's a power in healing work, but it isn't personal power. It cannot satisfy an individual's craving for self-importance. It's a real power that has nothing to do with our small, selfish dreams. It's the power to help life create itself. From the book, The Healers. The healing hero is one who leads with compassion, with heart. The healing hero recognizes they cannot lead alone, but only with others. Let's turn now to the gospel lesson for today. These verses from chapter 13 in the Gospel of John find Jesus in the upper room with his disciples, preparing for the Passover. Jesus knows that his time on this earth is coming to a close. He also knows Judas will betray him and that Peter will deny him. He wants every word, every action to count. He knows he is going to God and that he has come from God. He lets them know through his words that he loves them and will love them to the end. But he doesn't let it stop at that. He shows them that he loves them. He puts love into action. By doing something very startling, he washes their feet. You see, in Jesus' time, it was never the job, it was never the role of the host to wash the feet of those who were his guests. The host would leave water and a towel for people to wash their own feet, or they would send a servant to do that washing. So the disciples were very surprised that he washed their dirty, smelly feet. What's more, he said that they were to do the same thing for others. And that's how people would know that they were his followers. The followers of Jesus are to literally or figuratively wash other people's feet, to act as the servant, as the helper, as the caregiver. Over and over again, serving is the hallmark of being a follower of Jesus. It is not about how well we know the Bible that's so important to God. It's not about having the right beliefs, though God does value certain beliefs over others. Rather, it's showing love in action that God values. You, as the people of God, know this very well. You put love into action in many ways. Almost since the beginning, you have valued taking care of children and helping out children. First with Sunday schools that admitted every child, to the present iteration of child care and Sunday school, both with Sunday school for children and our preschool littlest ones, as well as our Thrive Child Care Center. You provide food for hungry people, for people in need, and you provide mission down to the Appalachian region through the ASP project, making houses warmer, safer, and drier, and so many other ways. Thrift on Fifth, and all sorts of generous ways of providing for this community. Now, 6 months into the pandemic, you are still growing strong in service. While other churches have stopped doing service because of the pandemic, you have found creative new ways to demonstrate your caring. And so another opportunity comes your way. And this opportunity that I'd like to take just a moment or two to discuss is the opportunity to learn more about how to show your care for others by this deep listening that is talked about in this chapter of the book that we have been reading as a congregation. That deep listening that's so important for all of us as leaders in our homes, as leaders in our neighborhoods, as leaders in our community, and far beyond. You'll have an opportunity to be a part of the Caring Church event, which is coming up November 6th and 7th. It will be on Friday night and 2 sessions on Saturday, and it will be via the Zoom technology. And so if you don't have Zoom, let us know and we'll find somebody that may be able to share their computer with you with some social distancing, of course. So know that that's coming up, and we'd love to have you learn more about it. So please contact us in the office and we'll share some more information, and stay tuned to all of our different ways of publicizing things. We pray that we will be showing this community more and more acts of kindness. And that's because that's who we are called to be as healing leaders in this community and in this world, is to share kindness, to show God's love for all people. There are so many people now that feel isolated, that feel alone, and we have people right outside our doorstep, just really wanting someone to share some deep listening. And so let's continue to grow in that important way as followers of Jesus. Grace and peace to you all, dear friends, on this Sunday morning.